I am Jared Clark with Airguns of Arizona, and today we're going to be walking through this brand new Daystate Delta Wolf, showing you how the functioning cycles work, how the two operation modes work, and quickly touch on every single adjustment it has. Now let's take an in-depth look at this thing. So the Daystate Delta Wolf is the world's first smart gun, is what I'm calling it. It has a chronograph built into the shroud that will both read out your velocities as well as actively adjust the gun if you're in the right mode to do so. So that is actually concealed in the shroud. You can't even see it up there, but that is what makes this gun super unique. That talks to this computer back here that you can see gives us this nice LCD readout, and together they work in tandem to actively adjust the gun to always hit your target velocity. It's insanely cool how well it works. It makes adjusting different projectile weights easier than ever. So having a gun that can be ultimately adjustable at the touch of a button, this is it, and it's the first one ever. So without any further delay, let's get into the two modes of function of fire that you have and show you how those two work. So first and foremost, your touch screen is kind of the engine of the entire system here. It is a touch screen. That being said, it's not quite as responsive as a smartphone that you would have today, and that's done intentionally, because with a gun like this, when you're adjusting things and changing your power, you don't want to accidentally change anything. So the one thing I will preface when we get into the smart screen is it does need deliberate movements, and you will get used to it. So to unlock it, right now it is locked. So if I bump it, if I do anything to it, it can't accidentally change while I'm firing. So when you want to use the gun's touchscreen, you open the bolt. You can do it in fire or safe because the gun recognizes that the bolt's open. I always switch it to safe. It's a good habit. You don't want the gun to go off, so it's in safe. And you're gonna hold the trigger for 4 seconds. The lock went away, so now the touch screen is now active. So I'm gonna swipe it to the left here, and that's our first mode of fire, factory shot setting. So we're just gonna start right here. And the first question factory shot setting asks me is the caliber I'm shooting in. As you probably know, this gun can have caliber changes and you can have different barrel lengths. So the first thing it asks is caliber. Today, this one in front of me is a 30, so 30. And then it's the high power configuration and actually the only configuration the 30's in. So it says select barrel, and I have a 23-inch barrel because it's a high power. And then it says select pellet weight. So pellet weight, they've preloaded the JSBs, 44.7 and 50.1. These are gonna be your two best pellets, and I think maybe the only production 30 calibers on the market. So you got both of your bases covered there. Today I'm using 44s. So there, my parameters are in. I had caliber, barrel length, and projectile weight, and now it is asking me to select FPS speed, select my velocity, my feet per second that I want the projectile I just chose to fly at. And if that isn't one of the coolest things you've ever seen, this might not be the video for you, because I can go from 970 with a 44 grain, oop, went past it, all the way down to 650 feet per second. So I have 340 feet per second on the touch of a button that in 5 feet per second increments, I can adjust in between and get to within a couple shots. So what we're gonna do for the sake of the video is show you, we set them all up here in the United States right around 900 feet per second. It's a lot of power, but it still gives you good accuracy and good efficiency. The last thing in the whole process for factory shot mode is it says set pressure to 190 bar. That is a factory recommendation that is set to hit the fastest velocity desired. So if you want to hit 975 feet per second, you're gonna need around 190 bar to do it. 190 bar is not the most efficient setting for the regulator by far. So since I'm running at 900 feet per second, I only need about 150 to 160 bar on the reg. And so that's what I have set this gun at. This gun's at 160 bar. It's looking for 900 feet per second. And even though this is red, it doesn't mean I can't press it. It's recommending that I go to 190, but I'm saying, no, I don't need that. So I press the red button. All of my settings are now saved. You can see I'm looking for 900 with the 44 grains. and it's ready to fire. It now understands my 3 parameters. It knows the velocity I'm looking for, and it has everything it needs to fire. So that being said, I have a magazine here just to show you the simplicity of the factory mode. We're gonna load it, put the gun in fire, and we should expect 908, 902. So the gun's working every shot to try and get to that 900. So you will see a little bit of the fluctuation, but your average will be right at that number you're looking for. So there you can see how easy factory mode is. So one cool tip for the factory mode, if you're not changing the pellet or the barrel length, you just want to change the velocity, go ahead and open the bolt, put the gun in safe, trigger for 4 seconds to unlock, and instead of swiping to the left, I'm just going to pull it to the right, and I have a speed change. This is really cool because it gives you on the fly. So I'm doing 900, I want to try 800. So I give them over to my speed change, the pellets stay the same, the barrel stays the same. It gives me an active response, and then the gun should take a couple shots. 868, 850, 830. I'm out of pellets, so. Okay, so our target was 800. It's working its way down there. There we go, hit it. 4 shots. I think it hit it on 4. But now it's just hovering at 800. So this is, like I said, the world's first smart gun. It uses the chronograph over here in the shroud that you can't even see to talk to the computer here to regulate the hammer system as it hits it electronically, and it makes changing velocities easier than it's ever been before. That's absolutely the truth on this gun, and the simplicity of it is the beauty. It seems a little bit overwhelming, but velocity change at the push of a button in factory mode. So one of the biggest features the Daystate Delta Wolf brings to the table, other than having a chronograph actively adjusting every shot, looking as good as it does, is that it has the ability to change calibers very, very simply. You change the barrel, you change the probe, and then if you come in here, you just simply go into your factory mode, and you have 30, 177, 22, 25. All you can go from a 30 cal shooting 100, right at 100 foot-pounds, all the way down to a 177, getting 18 foot-pounds. This gun gives you the ability on the fly to get different weights, to get different velocities, to get different calibers. It makes it for a pellet. You can shoot arguably any pellet ever in this gun and tune it at the touch of a button. The other option you have to work with in the shot firing mode is the advanced mode. So in this mode, the chronograph becomes readout only. It's still there and it's still telling you how fast your velocities are, but it's not actively adjusting every shot. In advanced mode, you have told the computer that you want this setting, and this regulator pressure, and it's trying to do that as consistently as possible. And with it being an electronic solenoid system, it's pretty darn consistent. So the advanced mode I've always kind of thought of as the competition mode, however you want to look at it. The gun is kind of using all of its ability. So you should see slightly tighter consistencies, and you should see a little bit better downrange accuracy, I would think, in the advanced mode. You won't get quite the shot count as factory mode in advanced, but you do have the ability, like I said, to set it perfectly where you want it and have it just hammer home the exact same numbers every single time. So now that I've talked about it enough, to get to advanced mode, you swipe 2 times left. That says advanced shot settings. I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. And there are 2 options here. It says new set and recall set. So think of sets as, if it had a power dial, a set would be one of the infinite stops on this power dial. You have infinite number of sets that you can play with, and within each set, there are parameters that will dictate the power. So let's just walk through a new set. We're gonna go new set. In the advanced set, the first parameter when you hit new set that you're gonna come to, it says select hammer and then the mu sign with an S. What I've always heard this referred to as is the dwell time. This number is a representation of time. It's in nanoseconds, or it's a small amount of time relatively, but it gives you the idea of how long the hammer, when it electronically hits, is gonna hit and stay on the valve and hold it open. You have voltage. This is essentially how much charge the hammer has. How hard is it gonna hit? The voltage behind the hammer. Voltage is the biggest dictator of speed when you're playing with your sets. So I would say the way to get the most direct feedback with feet per second and velocity is to turn up or down the voltage. The dwell time and the relationship between the two is critical, and I'm sure there will be infinite amount of presets and testing to be done, but the relationship between the two is important, but the voltage definitely will be what dictates how hard it's hitting and how fast the projectile is going. So we'll leave that there. The last thing, it says set pressure. This is for the regulator. These are humo-regulated, and it's just right now, it's just reading out what the regulator is set at. So the regulator up front here, we'll show you how to adjust it, but if you were adjust it and turn it up, it'll just read whatever the current regulator pressure is. So ideally you would set this before you got to this stage. You know, if I'm doing a set and know I want 130, I would degas the gun, turn the pressure in, and then by the time I got here, it would be closer to 130, because you don't want to have to turn the pressure down at this last stage. You just want it basically roughly where you're going to be. So I'm going to be at 160. It's there. And the last stage of this is naming it. So you have 4 characters to name it. They can't be the same. So if you want to keep a very specific set and keep tweaking the numbers, you'll have to go in and delete it and remake it every time. You can't have the ability to just save over one that's already in existence. So this one says none for the video's sake, but any 4 characters you want, there's numbers in there as well. And then when you get it where you want, you just push it right in the middle. And so now I made it. It's not in that mode. Now, if you want to get in the mode, we go back to our advanced shot set, and now we hit recall set. We recall set, there's the one I just made, N-O-N-E, and I go ahead and press it. The gun gave me a little bit of noise to let me know, and now if you look, instead of my desired factory shot setting, it's switched over. It says active set, none, the one that I made, and there's my parameters that I set. So you've just made your own set, and you have the chronograph now built into the gun to be able to test it and find out the speeds. Trial and error is going to be a lot of the advanced set. So there's a canvas here, a blank canvas that has unlimited sets, and there's a lot that the end users can do with them in terms of trial and error and testing, and there's no screws to turn, there's no mechanical things you have to worry about breaking in this gun. It's all with this one finger. All those changes I just made was all done right here with this one finger effortlessly. So the gun in advanced mode really is ultimately adjustable, and there is so much testing you can do. We're also, just to talk on the advanced last little part here, our new set, recall set. If you do want to delete a set, simply swipe that over, and there's rename set, delete set. So you can rename it. So yeah, those are your 4 options in the advanced set. You have new set, recall set, and then you have rename set and delete set. Those are your 4 options to work with in the advanced, and then you have the dwell time, the voltage, and the regulator pressure are your 3 parameters that can be adjusted. So that being said, in the United States here, we preload every gun in the advanced set with 5 preloads. we put 5 presets into every single gun, and we list them by caliber and then weight of pellet. So there's 22-25. So that's a monster redesign in 22 caliber. There's 25-34, which would be the Mark II heavies in 25 caliber. There's 30-44, which is the 30 caliber with a 44 grain. There's that one that I just made that's not going to be in all of them. And then the last one you'll see is Warp, W-A-R-P. That one is with all reserve power. This one is all maxed out. It's going to push pellets hard, so make sure you have heavy ones, because there's a lot of power potential on that one. So Warp is just all the power, and then you have 22-18, and then back to 22-25. So 5 total sets. These should give you tighter consistencies and kind of a good launching platform, I would say. So if in the 30-44, test it. If it works good, run with it. If you feel like it needs a little bit more velocity, go in and bump the volts up. Or if you feel like it gives you a starting point that then you can master tune and really select where you want your specific rifle, all without using any tools other than your finger. So let's go ahead and we'll play with some of these presets that we preload for you. So the first one, we'll try the 30-44. This is for if you got a 30 caliber with 44 pellets. Let's see what it does. So 891, 909, it's setting in real quick. There we go, 909. 903. This mode, you shouldn't see quite as much fluctuation as you did in the chronograph mode, because like I said, I'm forcing all of the numbers. It's just doing one ragged hole. 904. So in this gun, the 30 caliber 44 grains, we're shooting right at 900 on my preset. Your gun might be slightly different, but it should be in that ballpark. But like I said, if you wanted to bump it up to 930, 940, go in there and bump up those volts a little bit, go in there, turn up the reg pressure. There'd be a couple things you could try, but it gives you a great launching platform and it gives you the ability to test it and try as many things as you want. Okay, so the last setting we're gonna look at in our advanced shot set here is we're gonna recall the warp setting and see what kind of velocity in the 30 cal it's doing. I have 160 bar in here. The warp is technically asking for 180, but it'll still function without that. It'll work at whatever you have the reg set at. It does say low pressure, but all that's telling me is I'm below the recommendation. It's not that it's too low to operate or it's not gonna work or it's gonna hurt the gun. It's just it's recognizing that the discrepancy between my target and my current is more than 5 bar. So with that at 160, 960 feet per second with a 44 grain. Oh, 957. That thing, you can hear it. I don't know exactly. That's got to be 90 foot-pounds at least, 960. I don't know my. But yeah, that thing is screaming even with 160 bar in it. It's actually pretty darn consistent too. 956. So warp setting, and like I said, that's a 44 grain. So if you try warp on a 25 or a 22, like I said, make sure you got a heavy projectile in there. You might go supersonic and have a crack behind it. But the whole gun is there. Warp gives you an idea. That's everything maxed out. Play with it. You have a blank canvas to try as many sets as you want in advanced setting mode. So you can always go back to factory mode if you feel like your advanced is getting worse than better. But though I'm sure there will be unlimited amounts of internet posts and sets, I'm sure will become information that people have. In setting up these active sets, I have probably 3 pages full of different trials with different hammer weights and voltages and things like that. So there's a lot of adjustment, and don't be afraid of it. That's what the gun is there for. It's there for you to test with, and if it doesn't work better, delete the set and move on. Okay, so we've covered the 2 modes of fire the gun has. I just want to slide through the rest of the screen and show you quickly what you have to work with here. The magazine shot counter. In this mode, the gun will count your shots for you in the magazine. So if you want that to happen, you hit yes. So it has all these different number of shots, and it goes all the way up to 20 plus if you have the double magnets attached and you're using both of them. It'll actually count all the way up to 22, 26. So 26 would be the 177 doubled. So you have the options for the number it wants to count, which is really cool. And so since we're in 30, we'll do 8 shot. And so, yeah, 8SL appears in the top right screen here. So that means 8 shots left is what that stands for. When it hits 0, the gun will knock at you like it does back here, and that'll tell you, hey, I need to get a new magazine. The ones in the Americas, we turned this off initially. So if you do want that feature, go ahead and just scroll through the screen like we talked about, 3 slides to the left, and hit yes to turn that on. So if we keep going to the left, the next one you'll come up to is night mode. This is, let's just take a look at it. So if we want to turn night mode on, it's color change. It gives you a easier screen to look at night that's not so bright, I guess. It would be the idea. There's less whites in it. So that's night mode. There's nothing other than a color change. Some people like the red look better. No problem running it that way. It's a personal preference choice. So let's keep sliding. Backlight setting. So if we click on backlight setting, it'll give you the brightness level, the amount of time you would like it to stay on before it times out, and then the timeout brightness. Keep in mind each one of those settings will directly dictate battery life. So if you turn it to stay on for an hour at a time, don't be surprised if your battery dies after a couple hours. So each one of those, that'd be the only thing to keep in mind. Lowering them obviously will increase battery life, but I would recommend just leaving them at factory unless you're specifically doing something you want to change. Auto power off timer. This is how long the gun can sit until it goes to sleep. So the only reason I would think to adjust this or turn it up would be in a competition. I could see if you're shooting a bench rest competition and it lasts 25 minutes, you might want to go in and just set this to not time out during those 25 minutes. Or if you're shooting a field target or something like that, you can go in and you can scroll through. So 1 minute, 30 seconds, all the way up to an hour and a half. This is the last one, the chronograph. You can turn the chronograph off if you don't want it working. So if you don't need the readout, don't want the readout. They give you, which is nice in the system, you have the ability to go in and tell the chronograph, turn yourself off. So the gun will still function, everything else will work. It's just taking power away from the chronograph. It might make your battery last longer, but in my opinion, that's one of the coolest modes on this gun, so I'm gonna make sure that that chronograph is back on. So that is the entirety of the slide screen, the options you have. We showed you what each adjustment does. We showed you the 2 modes you have to operate in, and what you can do, like I said, with the touch of a finger is absolutely incredible for this day and age. This gun really brings a whole new level of shooting and adjustability to the game. So the last thing we're gonna touch on is the reg adjustment. We told you they do have Huma regulators. The regulator adjustment, it looks like a flathead screw right here. It's a little brass colored flathead cutout right there. And since warp speed here we're looking for is, it wants my targets at 180. This one wants me at 180 and I'm actually at 160. You can see up there in the top left corner. I have my screwdriver here and I'm just gonna actively, I'm gonna counterclockwise the screw. I'm gonna back it out to increase the pressure. So if I do it in small increments. So 163, 168. We're still climbing, it's just very slow, but it does give you a nice, I love the readout there. That's not a gauge the size of a dime or a nickel. I love the LCD readout when it comes to doing things like this. Boom. So when you make the adjustments, they do take a minute, and I would always recommend dry firing a couple times to set the reg, but bet you we're right where we want to be now. There we are. So it's going to settle down probably to 180, but that's as easy as it is to turn the regulator up. If you want to turn the regulator down, you do need to take the bottle off the gun. It has a valve in it, so just unthread it, and then you need this top left number to read 0. So if you take the bottle off and it's still at 180, dry fire it once or twice, it'll dump the reg chamber, and then you can turn that screw in. You can't turn it in under pressure, but you can back it out under pressure. So if we look up here in our top left corner, we got, it's just hovering between 180 and 181 bar. So in about 20 seconds, I was able to adjust that with pinpoint precision. It has that nice readout. Like we said, not just a small gauge. It makes it really easy to adjust accurately, adjust quickly, and makes the gun, like we've been talking about this whole time, the adjustability is one of a kind. There's no other gun that can do anything near what this gun can do. Now that it's at 180, we'll notice the low pressure sensor, that little flashing light, it went away because our target is 181? Yeah, our target's 181, so it knows that I'm plus or minus 5 of that target, and so it's saying, hey, you're within you've hit your number, you're good, you're no longer low pressure. So the feedback that you get from the regulator pressure and the gun saying, hey, you're higher or lower than you want to be is really cool. It's an advanced system and one of a kind. Okay, so there it is, as quickly as we can give it to you. The Daystate Delta Wolf, the world's most advanced air gun to ever hit the market. Hopefully now, if you have your hands on one, you feel a little bit more confident with some of the adjustments. You feel a little bit more confident with the reg and the advanced set. And we really hope that you get in there and really try it out. There's a huge blank canvas there for you to work with. And the gun makes shooting fun. It makes adjustability fun. It doesn't make it a chore. I'm Jared Clark. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about the Delta Wolf, always give Airguns of Arizona or any other Daystate dealer a call. They'll be happy to help you out. Hope you enjoyed this video and keep an eye out for our next one.